Hello there, my name is Dismas and welcome to another exciting Blender tutorial, and today we're going to be looking at how to simulate an earthquake in Blender 2.8. Now you can see here, if you select this, you can even increase the magnitude of the earthquake. Just push this a bit harder. You see, you can really make it really high. That's too much, so let me just bring it back to strength of 2. You can see, yeah, this is what we are going to simulate. And of course, if you added dust and maybe furniture inside there and another kind of floor here, you can have something that looks even better. And you can also, if you had this broken up even further, yeah, it will look even better. But because this is a tutorial and I want to keep everything very simple, I'm just going to use this. So if you're a Patreon, you can download this model. Let me just show you how it looks. This model here from my Patreon page, and you'll have it. It's a very simple material model. You can see it's all set up from these elements here, and if you want a different design of the house, you just have to move these elements around. Let's say you wanted this here, this front porch to be on the other side, or to be duplicated on the other side. You just move that, and if say you want to have a door here, just select that. You just select let's see, let's find where is my door. Yeah, okay, so I have the door here. Just select that part and link it up. Yeah, link this to the door. Control L, object data. Control L, object data. Actually, this should be the active and this should be the selected. Control L, object data. It's the other way around. So you select this first and select this. Select this first and select this, or is it the other way around? Select this and select this. Control L, object data. Yeah, I haven't done this in a while, so yeah, that's why you see I'm struggling a bit. But anyway, and if you want a window here, you just duplicate this. Again, do the same thing. So select this first and then this first. Yeah, and then Control L, object data, and see you have a window door there. Yeah, so let's just use this version here and go with that. So again, if you want to download this model to use this exact model, you can just find it on my Patreon page. I'll be leaving a link in the description. If it's not there, because I did this model quite a while, so I'm not very sure. If it's not there, you can just send me a message and I will send it to you. But yeah, or if you don't want to use this exactly, find yourself a model that is subdivided in these portions, or create your own and divide it in any way you want, because these are going to be our breakup points, or yeah, elements that are going to be breaking up. So select the entire thing, Ctrl C, and paste it in its own project. So select the default cube and then paste that directly. Now if you look at the material, you can see it loads quite fast. The materials load quite fast because if you go to the shading tab, you can see what we're using. We're using the same material for all the elements. Actually, no. I did this project quite a while back, so I'm not sure. But every element is using a PBR texture system. So we have the color and then the roughness to drive the reflectiveness and the normals or bumps in the material and the color as well. So yeah, it's a very simple setup, and that's why you see that it loads quite fast. So yeah, let's set up the earthquake. I'm just going to add a ground here. We'll just add a cube, scale it down, and then scale it in the X and Y plane. This is going to be our level ground. Just put it just a bit below there, maybe scale it even further out like that. And yeah, those are the models we're going to be using. Let me turn this into a sun. Okay, so yeah, if you have that done, let's start setting up the earthquake. So first thing you want to do is set up a rigid body. Another thing you want to also do is make sure that this house is set up in its own collection, because that will make it very easy for me to select the house a lot if I wanted to. So let me just do that. Hit M, new, I'll call this house and hit OK. Now if I want to select all the elements in the house connected to the house, I'll just select one element and then Shift G collection, and then find the collection, the house collection. Great. So let's select all meshes including the ground so that we can give them a rigid body system. So select everything, go under object, rigid body, and active. If we play back, it should all fall down, but we don't want this ground to fall down. And I think the ground is also intersecting with our with the mesh, so let me push it down just a little bit like that. Playback. Also make sure that the ground is not an active rigid body. Change it to passive so that it doesn't fall down. You can see now everything shatters, and you can see how these objects are rotating. They're kind of weird. They're pivoting at a certain point. That's not very good. And the reason for that is that you can see the pivot point for these elements is set at the corner of each element. I did this because I wanted to make it easy for me to put them where I want. So if I wanted, say, just move this aside. If I wanted this wall to be aligned to this here, I'll just select the Shift S so that the cursor can be snapped to that position, and then Shift S to that position, and then you can just move here. It makes it very easy to align other objects. That's why I did that. I did it like that. But when you're using the rigid body simulation, if the pivot point is not centered at the center of the mass or center of the object, you run into the issue you see we're running in, where things are kind of pivoting at some weird angle. So let's select everything and then right click origin to 3D to geometry. This will reset the origin of every object to the center. So if I play back, you can see now everything falls correctly as we expect them to. Now, but they're falling just randomly, or they're just falling down because of gravity, and we want them to fall down as a result of the earthquake. So for that, let's first set up the earthquake, this ground to shake in a way that this is shaking, or how we would expect the earthquake to shake the ground. So for that, I'm just going to select this ground and set a keyframe, just a single keyframe. Just turn on the auto keying and move the ground a little bit to set the keyframe, and then you can tap to the curve editor, Control Tab, to access these keys or these curves. We just want to affect or change either the Z or Y or X location. Any of them will work. So just select one, like the X, the Y location, and then hold down Shift H while you are in this timeline area to hide everything but the Y location or the property you have selected. And then go under Key and turn on modifiers, add F curve modifiers. The modifier we want to use here is the noise modifier. So let's set that up. Now if we zoom in by hitting the full stop key on your keyboard, I should be able to see the noise modifier, what the noise modifier is doing. It's just creating this random wave into the curve. Now if we play back, you can see that we have that shake in the ground, but it's very small and very quick. So if you hit N on your keyboard, you should access these options, and you can also see the modifiers down there. So if we increase the scale to something like 2, you can see the movement is more pronounced, and let's do something really high, like, yeah, okay, I guess it's just slowing it down. So if we increase the strength as well, you can see now the movement is now more pronounced, but it's not really affecting our objects here really very well. So to make sure that these are affected by the noise modifier we have added to the ground, I'll make sure that in the physics tab you turn on animated for this ground, and you should also start shaking up the elements. So you can see, but still these elements just fall down because of gravity and not because of the earthquake. So what we want to do is join all of the house elements into one piece so that the house moves as one object. So for that, let me select the all elements in the house collection and then go under object, rigid body, and then connect. This will connect all the pieces into one object. So if you look at the settings, we have a few settings here. If you fixed will just change, the type is just the type of connection you want, whether it's fixed or hinged, or other few options here that you can look at, but let's just go with fixed. I'll explain the other options maybe in a later video, but it's basically a connection, or consider it as a joint. There are fixed joints, point joints, hinge joints, and any other joints that are there, but we're going to be looking at only fixed here because that's what works for this. And yeah, now the location doesn't really matter that much. What we want to look at is the connection pattern. So if you have this selected to active, it means that all the pieces will be connected to the active element, and in this case, let me find it. Yeah, it's this here. So all of these will be connected here, and you can see the connection or relationship lines are all connected to this element. This is not what you want, as it will consider the joint of all these elements to be only at this point, but you want each element to be connected to the nearest object to it. So you want the pivot point for these two to be here, and this to this. Okay, some of these are intersecting. That shouldn't matter that much because these connections have the option to disable collision, so it shouldn't matter that much. But if you mind that, you can just remove some of the intersecting parts and yeah, move them respectively, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. So let's first undo the connections here so that we can connect them by distance, or have them connected to the nearest point or object. Just undo this, select everything, and then object, rigid body, connect, and this time let's change the connection pattern to chain by distance. Again, this will just connect everything to their nearest object. So this, I assume, connects this part to this part. So if we play back, you can see they are now connected. But again, because of the strength of the earthquake, yeah, they are being broken. The connection is broken, gets broken sometime. And you also see some weird flipping of the objects when we play back. And this was also there before we even added the connection. So if I undo the connections, play back, you can see the elements flip to show the opposite side instead of what we have. So that's the result of not applying the scale of the object. So what you want to do before you start simulating, use Ctrl A to apply the scale. But if you run into this error, it's because you have different objects that are sharing the same object data. And yeah, I set this up as you saw when I was trying to let me see, where is it? Yeah, when I was trying to make this part here, I was just linking the different objects. So if I wanted to change this to another window, I was just linking this to this, Ctrl L by object data, which kind of made this share the same object data with this, and that is what is causing this issue of the elements kind of flipping around. This is the project we're working on, flipping around. So you need to first apply the scale, but if you get that error, it means that you have objects sharing the same object data. And to get rid of that error, you need to make sure that all the objects don't share any data with another. No object shares the same data with another object. So go under object, relationships, and then make single user, and then select object data, and then apply to selected objects. That should clear the error. And if you apply the scale and rotation, or just the scale, Ctrl A, scale, you shouldn't run into that error. So if we play back now, you see they all fall down correctly. But this scale has has been applied for this object, which for the ground, which I don't want to. So let me scale it back. Let me just go to curves editor and just remove the scale properties from the animation, from the keyframes, so that we don't have it scaling up. Great. So now let's go back to connecting these pieces together. So object, rigid body, connect. Make sure the connection pattern is by distance, and we're good to go. So if we play back and see the earthquake starts playing again, because the magnitude is a bit high, you're seeing that the elements are starting to break up quite faster. I'm also going to increase the friction of the surface, something like 10, so that the house doesn't slide too far. It doesn't slide. So you can see the difference here. So you see, let me change the color of this. You know what, let me go to shading, because it's easier to see the sliding if I will have a texture here. So I'm just going to add a texture, image texture, new. I'll use UV grid, so that you can see how the house is sliding on the surface of the ground. We don't want that. We don't want that. So to remove that, just make sure you increase the friction of the surface. So I'm just going to put this to about 10, and you can see now the house doesn't slide on the surface, but it also increases the effect of the earthquake on the house. So what we can do is first of all, let me bring back my timeline. What we can do, if we want, say, to have a few frames where the house is still intact, what we can do is time the earthquake so that it doesn't start right away. And for that, we have to use another modifier. We have to go back to the modifiers, to the noise modifier. So just hit N, select the property you are animating, or where the property you added the modifier to, and then go under restrict frames. You can see, and now you can time this earthquake. So I want it to start at around 15 frames, so I can put this start to be as 15 frames, and the end can be, let's say, 45. Now you can see the range. So okay, I'm also going to remove one of the keyframes here. So you see the earthquake starts at 20th frames, but I don't like how it snaps like that. So what you can do is again go to the property you are animating, and you can use this in and out to kind of give a fall off to the start and end of your earthquake. I also give this. Okay, what's going on here? I want to extrude this, but for some reason I'm just extruding the face. You know what? Let me just add a solidify modifier. And apply it. Okay, so if you want the parts to break up, just select one of the connections, Shift D, select by type to select all the connections, and then you can either time the break point by animating this breakable point, or just turn on the breakable and give it a threshold. So let's say threshold of 5, but make sure that all the selected elements or connections have the same property. So I'll just copy to selected, and then also copy to selected, so that they share the same values. And let's see. So that jump you see in the objects is a result of these some of the intersecting objects you have here. So when you're setting up your model, make sure you don't have that intersect in the different objects. But because this is a tutorial, I'm not going to worry too much about that. But basically, that's how you set up an earthquake, and you just have to spend a little bit more time on it to make it more perfect. But yeah, so this is the original version, and yeah, another thing I did here is that because my gravity, my friction was, if you don't want to set a high friction, you can add an element in the back here to kind of stop these from sliding down. I don't know why I didn't just increase the friction high enough, but this was the issue I was facing here. It was sliding, so I added that in the back, but you can just increase the friction. I think this breaks up a little bit better than what I have there, but anyway, this is how you set up that. And again, if you want to download the model and the project to take a look at it, you can just become a patron and support me that way. Also, you can see here that we don't have that kind of jump in the elements because before I did this project, I went in and removed some of the intersecting elements. That's why you don't see that snapping or jump in the objects. But you might see a slight movement down. That's because we don't have any objects. Here you can see the level here, the ground level here is just very uneven. Let me just draw here. You can see it's something like that. So yeah, there are a few things you have to keep in mind. So you would have to fix that to remove that fall. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.